I grew up a long way from Wall Street, but I spent 17 years investing there and meeting with some iconic founders like Jeff Bezos. Today, I use that experience along with my CPA and tax background to help 8 and 9-figure business owners maximize after-tax wealth through investments and tax strategy. In just the last 16 months, our clients have executed over 500 million in transactions. Prior to founding Essential Partners, I met with some of the biggest CEOs of my generation, helping to manage money for some of the largest institutions in the world. Like which CEOs? Howard Schultz, founder of Starbucks; Rodney Sachs, the founder of Monster Beverage as we know it; the founder of Chipotle, Steve Ells; Mark Parker, former CEO of Nike. The list goes on. But let's start with Jeff Bezos back in 2006 to 2009. And to be clear, this was not the jacked animal Jeff Bezos you know today. This was the skinny, nerdy Jeff Bezos. So as an investment analyst, it was my job to interview CEOs to understand their businesses as we were considering $100 million investments or possibly billion-dollar investments like we had in Amazon in 2006. We were the third largest shareholder with 11% ownership of the company. And that's how I got in the room with Jeff Bezos in the first place. Today, I sit down with CEOs and business owners approaching a sale to get inside of their heads in order to map out the possible scenarios their business, investments, and tax strategy might take. But today, unlike 20 years ago, it's much more personal dealing with someone's life's work. I was in my 20s, fresh out of graduate MBA school, and we would travel up to Seattle to the old hospital building where Amazon had their offices. These were private meetings. Me, another person from my firm, and Jeff Bezos. So you can imagine, I was nervous. So I would come with pages of prepared questions in order to better understand the business and try to get inside of Jeff's head. But being the great entrepreneur that he is, he would talk and teach and explain. Oh, and he would laugh. And if you've ever heard that laugh in a private conference room, it fills the room and makes you kind of smile awkwardly. But really, it was an investing in business education. One time on a visit to Amazon, we actually met just after the launch of Amazon Prime, which I know everybody has a subscription to today, but at the time, people didn't believe in it. But Jeff went through in detail the reasons he launched Prime and all the lessons he learned from Jim Sinegal, the CEO of Costco, on their membership program. Meeting with Bezos was an investing and business education. For all my home service or software clients out there, do you think Jeff Bezos knows anything about customer acquisition and maximizing the lifetime value of a customer? So I did this over and over again across hundreds of businesses around the world for over 17 years. Meeting with CEOs, getting inside their heads to understand their business. And I say this with all humility, and for those who know me, know this, but I don't think any other wealth advisors have been in these rooms, let alone made billion-dollar calls based on what I learned there. A key component to evaluation of any company is to analyze and study similar business sale transactions. So this meant I poured over thousands of transactions over 20 years. At Essential Partners, we use that experience to analyze your business sale transaction quantitatively to understand whether or not you should sell. We then link that to our essential exit framework as it relates to investments and tax strategy to your personal financial situation. So let's back up. How did I get in those rooms with those CEOs and now here, where we're on an absolute mission to help business owners with 8 and 9-figure exits maximize after-tax wealth? And I say after-tax because the wealth management industry, they don't care about your taxes. They care about their fees. The taxes, that's your problem. So when I was at college at USC, as a 19-year-old, I had zero idea of what I wanted to do when I grew up. But I did know one thing. My parents, they were not having me back into the house. I needed to support myself. So as someone who thought they might want to go into business, I did the most practical thing possible with the guidance of my parents. I majored in accounting. Oh, it was painful. But thank you to mom and dad for their practical Depression era mentality, because this was my first introduction to tax. And tax is a huge pain point for business owners going through a business sale. And this is a massive focus of our business today. So after passing the CPA exam before graduation, I took a job at a big 6 accounting firm, Arthur Andersen. And I did this for 2 reasons. 1, I needed to support myself. And 2, you had to have this type of experience in order to get your CPA. And this job was brutal. It was boring box checking. But I did get a chance to meet with public company CFOs to analyze their financial performance, which was actually interesting. And while I was doing this mindless accounting work, there was something else going on in the world, something I call the OG tech bubble, the original internet.com bubble. And I became so obsessed with investing that I made a bunch of money, but subsequently lost even more money. A cheap lesson in hindsight. This obsession also got me reprimanded in an accounting partner's office. F-bombs were dropped by him, and I thought I was getting fired. Instead, I got a wake-up call. I needed to be an investor full-time. After doing some research, I realized jobs existed that you could actually invest for a living. So I went to work. I read Buffett, Munger, Peter Lynch on stocks, Harry Brown on asset allocation, Seth Klarman on distressed debt investing, Bill Gross on bonds, and even Jim Rogers on commodity cycles. I also landed a new job in a management development program at one of the largest money managers in the world, the Capital Group, who today manages $2 trillion. Trillion. But when I realized in order to actually get the job as an investment analyst, you had to have your MBA, I went back to USC and got my MBA before I convinced another large money management firm, TCW, to give me a job. And that's how I ended up in that room with Jeff Bezos. It was a great run helping to manage money for large institutions. But after 17 years, I want to control as a business owner myself and to help people directly, not the ivory tower institutions. So what did I do? I did what any investor would do. I look at the money that I stockpiled and I tried to acquire my way into the wealth management industry. And I almost made a big mistake. I had term sheets finalized to acquire a financial advisor practice with a partner. And these were good guys, but the investment approach was outdated and there was no tax strategy. It was a conventional approach. The conventional approach does not work for business owners who've sold their business. Do you think a business owner wants to go from controlling nearly all of their net worth within their business to then have a salesperson / financial advisor tell them that they should put 60 or 80% of their money in the stock market the day after they sell their business?
The big news of the morning, the Dow suffering its worst point drop ever yesterday, and the 10% drop was the biggest since the market crash of 1987.
That makes no sense from an investing or psychological standpoint, let alone the fact that it doesn't consider tax efficiency or tax savings. When I look back, it's far-fetched to think about my path. Growing up in the early days of the dirt roads of Las Vegas, and my parents didn't know anything about investing. And somehow I managed to get in front of Howard Schultz, Jeff Bezos, and even the CEO of Nike. I never felt like I belonged in those rooms in my 20s. But every meeting, every lesson, and most importantly, every mistake built me. And somehow I ended up even being featured in a book on how to analyze a stock using Starbucks as an example. On Wall Street, I learned how billion-dollar decisions are made, and I made those by analyzing thousands of acquisitions and realizing that businesses and founders, their fate is determined by how they plan for the future. Now, when I sit down with a business owner who's thinking about selling, I see the same patterns, the same questions, and the same fork in the road during big decisions. But the stakes now are actually higher. It's more personal. Selling your business is not just a transaction, it's your life's work. It's also your family's future and your legacy. But if you don't get the tax piece right, and you don't get the investment piece right, it can all slip away. This is why Essential Partners exists, to combine everything I learned in those Wall Street rooms with the tax expertise that I started with. To partner with business owners in order to maximize the only number that matters, what you keep after tax. We're on a mission to protect business owners. Our clients have executed over $500 million of transactions over the past 16 months. But most importantly, they walked away with peace of mind, knowing they didn't leave their hard-earned money on the table. I'm gonna share these stories and lessons, the wins, the mistakes, and the missed opportunities, as well as the inside stories. And hopefully, this will help you as you face your own big decision. If you're preparing for an 8 or 9-figure business sale, or if you've already sold, subscribe here. These lessons aren't for everyone, but if they're for you, it could be the difference between the wealth you keep and the wealth you lose. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about money. It's about your family, it's about the legacy you're leaving, and the business that you built. So when you walk away from that business, you want to ensure that you're securing the future you earned.